and thank you for joining me. And I'm Kimberly King, and today I'm joined with a dear friend of mine I've known for years, Phil Freeman. Phil and I used to work together at PSA USA Airways.
That's correct.
Many moons ago.
Many moons ago.
And Phil, you and I, you've always been an incredible storyteller. And, through the years, you have told me about your mother. God rest her soul. Your mother, Louise LaPlante.
Correct.
An actress extraordinaire.
Correct.
But in light of what just happened recently with the Notre Dame Cathedral, this really has come to the light. And she was an actress as a young baby in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And you called me the other day, and I really want to talk about this.
She was in the movies for almost 35 years. She was with Paramount for 14. Her first movie she was in was The Queen's Baby in the Hunchback of Notre Dame with Lon Chaney, the silent version. And my grandmother would put him in these movies so the relatives could see the kids. And she was the Queen's baby who they kidnapped from the Queen, and the gypsies took her, and she became Esmeralda as she grew up. And it was always, we've watched that movie probably 100 times. And my dad passed away, and in 1985 and 1988, I took my mother to Paris and to see to Notre Dame. And when they greeted her, there were 5 monks, priests, and one head, and they met her with flowers, took her all over the cathedral, and then invited her for lunch there. And it was very moving. We spent about 4 or 5 hours there, and very special, very special.
And I think what really touches my heart was that movie, that silent film was shot in 1923. And you're talking about when you took your mother there. That was back in the 80s.
Yeah,
so
60 some years later.
They treated her with such grace and
something that they cherished.
Wow.
I mean, they were thrilled to death to meet her.
Oh.
And they took her through, as I mentioned, all parts of the church. But they took her upstairs to where all the wood walkways were and the bells and everything. And unfortunately, all that was destroyed.
Oh, it's a tragedy.
But it's amazing watching it on TV how everyone's come together, and how it's such a special thing all over the world.
It really, truly is. And I think another thing that is just so special, and what comes to mind, and I've also been there, but it really doesn't matter what your religion is, and what if you have faith. I know when I was there a few years ago. I was so overcome with emotion. It really takes your breath away. And
well, imagine a church that's 900 years old, took 200 years. From what I understand, it took 14,000 trees to build. It's an amazing structure.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, buildings today, 50 years and you're lucky.
Yeah.
This is 900 years old. And, but as you said, the people of Paris, they weren't Catholic, they weren't any religion. They all came together at the sorrow of what happened.
Right. Well, so we are in mourning of what has happened there. I want to talk a little bit more about your mother, and she had such an amazing career. So she started when she was a baby, and you shared with me another story about Bing Crosby and Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney. Talk to me a little bit about
Well,
those.
Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney and Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, they were all contract players at Paramount. So, they did a lot of movies in those days. My mother was in the Arizona Scottsdale Biltmore, and they wrote White Christmas during the summer. And they came back about 2 weeks later, and it was July, and Mom was tired because they have to be in makeup at 5:30 in the morning. And Bing Crosby asked her, "Would you mind, Louise, if you came in, we're going to record a Christmas song?" And Mom thought it was very strange because all of the band had T-shirts on, and in those days you didn't wear T-shirts. So Bing put her on a stool, and he made one recording of White Christmas, and he did it singing it to my mother. It was amazing, and you know, when we hear that song, I mean, you hear it every year. It's always very special to us. And in those days, you know, they had fun doing special things. Uh, Mom was in Judy Garland's first wedding, and she hung out with Judy Garland quite a bit.
Oh my gosh.
And then Judy Garland was traded to MGM when they did The Wizard of Oz, and then she came back. And you know, Mickey Rooney, everyone was very polite. Bing Crosby, Bob Hope. Bing Crosby and Bob Hope would play games on him all the time. Once they were in the middle of a scene and they stopped, and the producer or director said, "You have a call from Bing Crosby." And Bing Crosby says to my mother, "What are you doing working with that Bob Hope guy?" So, you know, I think they had wonderful times. It was a unique time in history. They did produce a lot of movies, and then the war movies during World War II. My mom and her sister Rosemary, you know, who was Miss America in 1941, they were the highest raisers of war bonds during World War II. After my aunt became Miss America, she went to the White House, and I don't know if I should say this, but Roosevelt wanted her to be a spy. And my grandmother said, absolutely not.
Oh my goodness.
So they didn't have fences around the White House in those days, but you know, it was fun. It was just a fun time.
To have grown up and around the table, and it, you know, it's nice. Thank you for sharing, and to let this legacy live on. And I probably won't be able to ever listen to White Christmas quite the same now. I'll always think about your mom just listening and having Bing
That's
Crosby.
what we do.
Yeah, knowing that he sang that to her.
Yes.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.